So here we go again, F1 2021. Let's get started.
And they are going to win! Pierre Gasly wins the Italian Grand Prix! 3 cars going wheel to wheel as Perez is caught by Charles Leclerc and there's 3 cars gone off! It's a DNF for MAX! The World Championship record is equalled. Lewis Hamilton, 7-time champion of the world!
With a new intro.
Yes, with a new intro.
Did you like it?
Love.
Tingles.
Very nice.
Absolute chills, yeah.
So a new introduction, a new jingle, but the same people, the same voices for this series of F1 in Review. I'm Tom.
Hello, I'm Tristan.
Hiya, I'm Liv, and let's not forget Angus as well. He is unwell today, but he remains a solid part of our podcast and will return for the first podcast after the first race of the season.
And welcome to all those who are joining us, watching us, listening to us on YouTube for the very first time. Thank you very much to Tristan for setting that all up. We are going global, I guess, or multifaceted at least.
Absolutely. Last season we got some feedback that it was a good idea to expand to more platforms. So yes, this will not be a visual presentation of any sort, but if you are on YouTube and you fancy just minimizing the browser, or maybe you're on your phone, just take a listen for the next 35-40 minutes. To our lovely voices. And don't forget also, if you want to follow us on our social media, you can find all that stuff in the description.
So we're back talking about testing. Started on Friday, has concluded only a matter of hours ago. Happened in Bahrain this year, not in Spain. What do we think about testing? What do we think about what we've seen, what we've not seen?
Well, I thought it was interesting to see sand in testing for once. That's been plaguing the teams no end, and also the poor commentators and the people in the pit lane as well. When I tuned in, I did hear someone moaning about the sand. It was coarse and rough and it gets everywhere. I think that was Will Buxton. No one else seemed to get none of the other commentators seemed to get the joke there, but I did. I appreciated it. Just in case you all were listening, Will. But yes, I was expecting to see more from Mercedes. I'm not gonna lie, they had a couple of issues. Thank goodness. I mean, oh no, poor Mercedes. It seems to me like it's a little bit twitchy on the front end. I noticed also when I was looking at the cars, lots of the teams seem to have got small aero parts on the front of their cars. The Ferrari definitely does, and part of the reason for that can be for channeling air or just increasing the downforce on the front of the car so that it becomes more grippy on the front end, which helps a little bit with reducing the amount of oversteer you've got. Lots of drivers prefer understeer to oversteer, unless you're Max Verstappen, in which case you just keep drifting the car around the corners, which is part of the reason why Alex Albon didn't do so well. But yeah, I was expecting to see more from Mercedes, and maybe it's just part of their 4D chess plan. Toto Wolff has got this managed very well. He's going to lure everyone else into a full sense of security before, bam, first season, kicking them all where it hurts. But I was really impressed with McLaren. I think they've done some fantastic gains. They've got the Mercedes engine. Yes, so I'm so hyped for Aston Martin versus McLaren. Oh, it's going to be so good to watch. Ricciardo versus Vettel, Norris versus Stroll. Yeah, I suppose that's sort of a battle, isn't it? Old versus old, young versus young. So we've got some fantastic things, I think, this season. And I just can't wait, actually, for the first race in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm the exact same, and I think it's worth a mention as well. Just as Tom said, we've just come off the last afternoon test of the entire 3 days. Let's give a shout out to Yuki Tsunoda. What a star in his first ever F1 testing. I think that's going to be really, really interesting to watch. And in general, the AlphaTauri, in my opinion, is really strong this year. So that'll be really interesting. So you mentioned talking about Mercedes and then those other teams, Tristan. I think it's worth starting on teams and what we think about how they'll do this year and what we've seen in testing. I've done a little happy face on my notes for the teams I think have done well, and a little sad face for the ones I think have done badly. So I just thought I'd start by saying, yeah, AlphaTauri, absolutely, big smiley face. They are looking really, really good this year, and with Gasly, who's continued to be superb throughout last year, and now, wow, Yuki Tsunoda, like, yes, it was just one test, but he is not afraid to absolutely push it, so I'm really, really excited to see what he'll do. And I've also put McLaren there because McLaren. I mean,
yeah,
come on.
McLaren.
Come on. They have been great, and both drivers, I think, are they're very hungry, they're very strong, they both have a lot to prove, and obviously with the new Mercedes engine, I think we're going to be absolutely seeing them up there. And I mean, we'll come on to predictions later, but I do predict some good results for McLaren. And then for my sad face, I've obviously put a bit of Mercedes, but I'm not too worried at this moment in time. As you say, it could all be complete lies, and they're actually going to absolutely like rock the boat when they show up for the real race and beat everyone. But I've also put Aston Martin, because you did mention them there battling, but they had like 0 laps. Like, that's an exaggeration, clearly, but. If you look, I mean, I know, I think Mercedes did have the least laps because of all their problems, but Aston Martin had so few as well. And for a team that are, starting fresh with a new car and with a new name and with Vettel there, they needed as much testing as possible, and they got so few. Vettel got absolutely none compared to other people, and having so many issues. So I'm kind of disappointed, I'm not going to lie, with Aston Martin, how they started. If you think back to this time last year, when Racing Point popped up, technically the same car, well, same team as they are now, they popped, and they were absolutely, they made waves, and they made stories and headlines from testing. If you remember, everyone was so shook about that pink Mercedes. And this year, same team, but kind of disappointing, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, that's sort of my team review. What do you think, Tom?
Oh, I think Red Bull have done really well. And I know that Hamilton sort of come out to the media and said Red Bull are a different animal, quite clearly trying to sort of almost get in their heads early doors, which I get. But having Verstappen first on the timesheet and Perez when he was, I guess, not racing but driving for them the day before, and the fact they posted a whopping 139 laps in one day, they've very much been at the front of the grid for the entirety of testing. As we say, testing is maybe not a clear reflection of what will happen, but Red Bull have been notorious for starting off slow, be it in testing or be it in the first few races. So the fact that they've come out the doors all guns blazing, and they've got two, in my view, world-class drivers in Verstappen and Sergio Perez, I think they could really take the fight to Mercedes moving forward, especially if they have a more reliable car than last year and Mercedes, vice versa, have some reliability issues. So big smiley face for Red Bull, and may I just add, for Kimi Räikkönen and for Sainz, who I think have done rather well in what were two poor cars last year and which look to be two average cars this year because of the lack of regulation change.
I'd like to also bit of a shout out to the drivers for not moaning after doing that many laps in a car which cannot be comfortable to drive for that long. My butt would be hurting like crazy. I can't even drive an hour and a half in my car without getting like a numb leg and pain down the side. Maybe that's just my poor sitting position. But being jammed in a tiny coffin for that long, going over and over and over again, my goodness, God, you think get out? Like, I can't feel my arse. It's completely numb. I cannot do any more.
I think you're right, and also the fact as well that it's so condensed this year. There is not time to take a 1 hour break and, have a bit of food and have a drink. Obviously there is a lunch break included, but generally those 4 hours, they want to be making the absolute most of them. Yep. It's interesting that Mercedes did not. Literally in the last session today, I think there was like 45 minutes in before Hamilton hopped in the car. But in general, you want to be making the most of it. So they must be exhausted now. Thankfully, they do have a bit of a break and time for the engineers to work out what the hell was going on some of those cars before we get started. But you mentioned drivers there. Who, driver-wise, who sort of stood out for you as some, real prospects for the year, or maybe surprises?
Danny Rick. Putting in some great times in the McLaren. I'm expecting great things from the McLaren, and one of the things I think that I've taken from this testing is the already teams are adapting. So I read the Aston Martin team are already tweaking their floor from testing. There is I don't know if it's officially been called Lasagna Gate yet with the McLaren Mercedes floor. Yeah. They even tweeted out, been like, please stop comparing our floor to lasagna sheets. So it looks like they've got some very complex rear diffusing systems underneath. If you don't know what a rear diffuser does, you have a nice big flat place underneath your car. Unlike most road cars, it's not bobbly, it's nice and flat, and then you put a rear diffuser at the back, and what that does is it sucks the air out, speeds it up, and what that does is it creates a low pressure area underneath the car. But if you put in little complex twiddly bits, what you can do is you can create vortices, which also help with the aerodynamics. So back to people, as you said, Yuki Tsunoda, Danny Rick, and Max Verstappen putting in the fastest. Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how perhaps the confidence that we're getting in each one of those cars. Ricciardo's a great driver on the brakes. Verstappen seems to be able to pick the Red Bull car up, and as I alluded to earlier, just drift you around the corners. I mean, the car oversteers like crazy, but if you can just place it into the direction you want to go, correct it and drive off, and you're doing great. And Tsunoda as well, I'm rooting for him. I'm hoping that there is I'm kind of hoping that he's been pulled up at the right time, and I'm also really hoping that Perez doesn't get the curse of the second Red Bull car. I think he's putting some pretty good lap times. I think he's holding his own at the moment, but at the end of the day, testing is only a metric of how fast they can go under sort of these testing minor conditions, one lap here and maybe a bit of a stint there, but the pressure isn't quite as high as when it's going to be race day. And so I'm hoping that all these great times translate over to the first race, because I feel like at the moment we might have a proper fight on our hands for everyone below second place.
Yeah, I agree. I think as well, extending from what I said a few moments ago, Carlos Sainz has done a really good job. When you consider that third place on the last day of qualifying, as we say, it's not a fair reflection, but still to beat someone like Lewis Hamilton, Ricciardo, Perez, who we've all said has done an excellent job, it just shows how well he's taken to that Ferrari car. And looking at how Ferrari was last year and the struggles that Seb Vettel had, it's quite remarkable, and it does give you confidence moving forwards. I think if you're a Ferrari fan or part of the team, if you think how well Leclerc did last season, how consistent he was able to be with that car regardless of the technical and mechanical issues that power unit had and the car more generally had. Imagine if you have two drivers like that who can really grind everything out of the car. I think last season we spoke about how AlphaTauri nearly caught Ferrari, but I think it's going to be far more competitive with Ferrari looking more upwards in the Constructors if they're able to replicate this consistency that Sainz has done so far.
I feel as if, I know we're maybe talking about drivers and I'm going to come back because I have points, but I feel like this is a bold prediction that I was going to mention earlier, but you've just said it. I think AlphaTauri are going to beat Ferrari this year.
I feel like I need like a bold prediction klaxon.
Yeah. When we come on to predictions, we'll go through them first. But just for a bit of fun, I wasn't blown away by Carlos Sainz and Leclerc, I'm not going to lie. Like, I see that one third place finish, but interesting. But I don't know what it was, but I didn't find watching the car and the laps exciting. I don't really know. I don't know. I think it's early days, but also I just quickly scribbled down when you were talking there. I don't know if you guys saw, but whatever was going on between Sainz and Raikkonen at the end when the session got red flagged today, like end of the day at the complete end of the session. They'd red flagged it, and drivers were allowed to finish their lap or whatever. Sainz and Raikkonen had a battle on track and hit. I was literally boggled. I was like, "What are you doing?" They bumped tyres and both went off.
I didn't see that.
I'll have to send it to you. And listeners, like, I don't know if you saw it, but it was so stupid. Like, what's the point? Anyway, I don't.
They will not be happy about that back in the
No,
pits.
there was no damage from what I could tell. But at the end of the day, that's completely unnecessary when it's the end of
pretty
testing.
daft.
Really stupid. So that, I think it was Raikkonen's fault, but we'll see. And shout out to him, by the way. He actually wasn't horrific this testing. He's had some good results. And Giovinazzi too. So good on Alfa Romeo for doing something. But returning to drivers, because I'm the one that literally introduced the topic and then already got distracted.
Yeah, you diverged off yourself.
Come on, Liv.
I'm sorry. But you mentioned Ricciardo. The way he's gotten used to the car already, like, is so exciting. The fact that you always presume, really, that people will take a few races to get used to a whole new team, whole new car. It seems like he's absolutely jumped into it, and is already doing fantastically. So I can't wait to see that. And obviously Norris alongside him, I think that they could be very closely fought, those two. And they always were. Like last year with Norris and Sainz, their qualifying record was pretty much tied the entire time. So Norris is going to prove a threat, I think, and the two of them together will push each other really hard. But yeah, I think shout out to my boy Latifi, 7th place.
Really?
Just putting that out.
Yeah.
7th place. I tell you what, that's not poor. And I think, and George in 6th today, I do think.
There he is.
I mean,
George is back.
Yeah, of course. I'm not saying they're gonna win races, but let's maybe, I don't want to jinx it, but let's all hope this will be the year. There might be a cheeky point.
That's the level we're at now, isn't it? We're just
that's how hyped we're gonna be. Can you imagine the party?
and they made it on time.
They have turned up to testing. I know.
Yes, they made it on time.
So yeah, shout out to those guys, because it is worth mentioning that that's actually pretty good for them, despite it just being testing. And then, Gasly and Tsunoda, AlphaTauri supremacy this year. I said it here. And Stroll, I think not too bad considering the Aston Martin had a bit of a rough few days.
Yeah.
Next to my sad face now, I have Sebastian Vettel. Seb, I love him
Seb's
dearly.
so happy.
I was sort of expecting something more exciting, and it just seemed like he trundled around and there was an issue, and then he went for a media interview and he talked to Ted Kravitz about cheese, and then that's basically it. I wasn't blown away. And the same goes actually for Fernando Alonso. I think Angus, when we get to his sort of points, his discussion points later that he noted down for us, for
yes, he
listeners,
did.
He also mentioned sort of the anticlimaticness of Alonso and at Alpine. I don't know. I just kind of expected him to be more of a force in these early days, but of course, it's been literally years since he's been in a car. So I mean, and he's been in an accident. Of course, let's not forget he was in a bike accident, hit by a car quite recently. So we've got to give him some, let him off a bit. But yeah, I found that quite unexciting. So that's my.
I'd like to just highlight the Danny Rick thing, because I think we're running out of time for this one, so we should probably move on soon. But I do think it's a testament to the easiness of the McLaren car, and I think it's been picked up on a few times before that they've seemed to have really built a nice car, and that goes a really long way to making a driver feel confident about pushing themselves a bit further. And the fact that Danny Ricks has jumped into it, and yes, he's a good talented driver, but also I think it's a really stable car. I think it's really nice to drive, and I'm hoping that this will really help McLaren fight Red Bull, because Red Bull might be faster, but it's definitely on a knife edge more than the McLaren is. And sometimes, it's like the hare and the tortoise. McLaren might be a bit like the tortoise in this, but the hare gets tired, it makes mistakes, and the tortoise trundles past. So, I'm hoping that this is a great sign of the stability of the McLaren team, and it feels like a family. It's really nice.
I think to be honest, the battle between Red Bull and McLaren is going to come down, I think, to individual talents with the drivers, because both the cars look really, really strong. And when you get to a point where you're trying to split Verstappen and Perez on one side and then Norris and Ricciardo on the other, that's a pretty feisty fight. That's a pretty top-tier battle that we could be seeing sort of week in, week out at different circuits which pertain themselves to sort of high-speed racing. So, I think it could be quite competitive this season, but moving forwards after the regulation change, we could see an even closer pack, or definitely between those two cars, which it's exciting, man.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. So now going on to the huge issue of this season. Which car do you prefer? I'm not talking about the sort of technical design, but the actual sort of exterior liveries of each car. Which is your favourite? Which are the ones you hate to see on track? Let me know your thoughts.
Oh, Liv, I know you have strong opinions.
Well, I'm jumping about with them, to be honest. However, I have decided my favourite three are the A team: Alpine, Aston Martin, AlphaTauri, AAA. They're my three favourite liveries. I know, it works perfectly. The Alpine, I mean, it's cool. I like it a lot. I think that the colour, the blue is lovely, and I think that the nose, because it's got sort of black running alongside the nose, it almost looks like it's a lot thinner than everyone else's, and I just think it looks really cool. I like the Alpine. I like sort of the way they launched it as well, with like the mountains and like the links to the history. I like the Aston Martin because it's racing green. At first I was like, because in the rendered shots for the launch, it kind of looked a weird colour, like turquoise, and I was like, no. Seeing it on track, I'm happy. And the AlphaTauri, it's just nice. It's just nice. I like the dark blue and the white, and it's just pretty, and it suits the drivers that are in it. I don't know why, but they're just both very fashionable people, and it's a fashionable car. Then ones that I don't like, it's growing on me, but I really didn't like the Williams when it first launched.
Agreed.
I was really disappointed because I've seen obviously the pictures of the shakedown when we'd seen the drivers themselves but not the car, like a little teasers they were doing, and I saw the dark front wing and I was like, yes. And then I saw Latifi and I saw George in their lovely dark green dark green, what am I banging on about? Dark blue jackets, and I thought, dark blue and white, like that would be lovely. And then they launched it and I was like, a bit of white. And then I just saw like the orange, which people keep calling yellow, which looks orange to me. And I wasn't very happy about it. It's looking better on track, but And then obviously we've got to shout out, Rara Rasputin, the Haas car. What on earth is going on there? Like, I'm so embarrassed for literally everyone that has to be involved. And I wish Mick all the love. And I feel so sorry for him that Mick Schumacher has to drive in that absolute disaster of a car. But you know what? It's being investigated. I'm pretty sure it still is. So we'll see whether that's allowed. Yeah. But it's so they were so embarrassed. They knew it was so bad that they didn't even launch it. Like they just dropped the photos one day and were like, "Oh my god, run away!" But they didn't have a proper launch because their PR, like the way they've got to deal with all these issues at the moment, they're just like dropping bomb after bomb, and it's embarrassing. So yeah, that's my absolute no for a livery. And then the others, I'm just kind of like, they're okay. I'm in the middle with all the others.
Yeah, I mean, like McLaren, Red Bull, Alfa Romeo, have they changed their cars externally? Are their liveries
Basically,
any different?
no.
And I'm not even trying to be funny here, asking for a friend.
Well, don't give Alfa Romeo credit. They did invert their white and red.
Wow.
And AlphaTauri reminds me of the 2010 Williams livery, and I like that. I like the Honda on the back wing as well. In fact, I like that on the Red Bull as well. I think I said that at the time. I feel like Red Bull, I'm always hoping Red Bull one day do something a bit mental. Every so often they do a testing livery around their, I think usually around their like local track where they test, where they can do some quite cool things. If you haven't seen it, you can just Google something like a Red Bull F1 testing livery, and you'll see some different designs they've done over the years. But they usually revert back to this matte colour. Yeah, it's fine. I love the Mercedes. My goodness, that car looks delicious. It actually reminds me of a really upmarket toothpaste brand. So if Mercedes, you ever produce toothpaste looking like that packaging, I'd buy it. I think it's the I know it'd be spearmint, wouldn't it? It would be spearmint. So delicious looking. Aston Martin, that's great. I love the lipstick. It kind of reminds me of the Mark 1 Golf with the lipstick on the front of that. I think they did the BWT colours fantastically, just a smidgen on and it goes with green. I didn't think it would go with green, but they've shown me the way. So I showed the new merch to Soph, and she went, looks great, but it just looks like the people who wear those polos work at a really fancy garden centre, and I can't unsee it. I cannot unsee it. So yeah, I'm sorry if you bought one of those. You now look like you work at a really fancy garden centre in my eyes, but still I love the colours. Fantastic. Alpine, glorious. Blue and the red and the white. It's excellent. It reminds me of something, and I can't really remember. I can't place what it is. I think it's
also toothpaste. I think it is also toothpaste.
I think it's Colgate, kind of big Colgate.
100% Colgate. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you're not gonna be able to see that one as well. Ferrari decided to forget to take the frog tape off the side of their car when they were stenciling on the it's vile. On the M. Yep. So if you don't know what frog tape is, it's bright. It's that color green. Painter's tape. So yes, that why they transitioned from like nice red into burgundy, and then they went, oh yeah, let's put some green on it as well because that's always going really well. So whoever signed off on that needs a bit of a slap in the face. It's not going to be on the car the whole time because of what the M controversy. So yeah. And then you get in. I'm trying to think of a better name than Rara Rasputin, but I can't. So congratulations, Liv.
Thank you.
You won the nickname for the Haas VF21, whatever they're calling it. Yeah, that's cool. It's like being hit by the Kremlin. But like, do you know what? Let's move on. And then let's go to Williams. Well, you know what I think about the Alfa Romeo. The Williams car, I like it. And also, big up Williams for doing something cool with the VR launch. We have a space in the garden in the garden where we've got a studio, a pod studio, and we've got enough space in there to do the VR thing properly. And I was so excited to VR the car into my house or into the studio and take a look at it. And then some twazzock hacked it. Like, what did you get from that? I was so angry. I'm not angry. I was disappointed. I was really disappointed because I think the livery's kind of cool. I know Angus, and I'm going to bring in what he says here. He says that it's a little bit busy for him, and I kind of see what he's going on there.
I'd agree.
He says too much going on. Yeah, it kind of looks a bit like that, but I think part of the reasons for that is many of the people looking at the render shots. And there's lots of layering on top of that with the stripes, but I don't know. I think it looks kind of cool. It does look a little bit Formula 2-ish, or the lower divisions. I don't know whether or not you agree with that, but it's okay. I think they could have done better. I think it would have been really nice if they did like an homage to the previous like Williams sort of liveries. It's ironic that the AlphaTauri this year looks more like a Williams livery than the Williams livery does. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good run through of what I think of them. I'm supremely disappointed with Haas. You sell your soul to the devil, why don't you? As you say, I feel so sorry for everyone involved, all the pit crew, all the engineers who have to look at it, and yeah.
They don't have a choice. They don't.
They don't.
And I feel again so we've mentioned this so many times before, so we'll quickly brush over it because we need to actually move on. But the team who have to work on social and the team who have to work on PR, how do you even deal with
it's really
the
hard.
show that's going on? You can't and if you don't, you lose your job. It's such a difficult situation for them.
Haas has gone from the whole rich energy thing to this thing. It's like, my God, at what point do you look yourself here? Right, guys, this year let's just do something really normal. let's just be normal. So yeah, sad face or angry face, I think, in our emoji ranking system.
Yeah, I actually think, to be fair, looking at what's happened this season with the whole Russian flag debacle, looking at the recruitment of Mazepin and of Schumacher, two young drivers, and looking at how desperate it's been for Haas, coupled with Günther Steiner's recent comments that basically there's no point doing any development or too much development this season because essentially there's going to be a huge regulation change in 2022. My bold shout is that Haas Formula One as itself will not exist next year and actually be sold to another company.
Yes, I agree, because I think Gene wants to get rid of the team just because it's not really going that well. No, but
it looks like they've given up before the season started. It's almost like get two young drivers in, which shows that we're doing something and thinking forwards, and it's fairly attractive to go and be in charge of two young drivers. One more than the other, sure, but it gives that sort of shop window look of, hey, buy this thing, it's got a future. And then looking at the sort of Russian flag thing, it kind of just shows that management doesn't really care anymore. Because if they cared, they wouldn't have stooped to that level, I don't think, in a long-term fashion.
And it was really a top-down decision. I saw lots of people giving grief to the designer of it.
Yeah,
and
me too.
It's not, and at the end of the day, someone has got to design this, and chuck it on a car.
He tweeted, he went, "I've been given a brief, and I'm really proud of what I made, and good for him." Let's not absolutely target him at all.
My family are graphic designers, and I really sympathise for him because he would have been given a brief and then revisions and then revisions of the revisions, and it would have been to the point. I'm pretty sure they would have said, look, we want the order of the colours to be like the Russian flag, and we want it to be on the front nose, and we want it to be on the side, but you get to decide how long each line is, or something equally ridiculous. But it doesn't matter. I'm not gonna let it ruin the rest of the season.
No, all this episode on that.
I wish Schumacher, and yes, I will wish Mazepin every success.
I'm sorry, you've started me on something again. He laughed today when he almost had a crash, and everyone was already Twitter was absolutely popping off, being like, "He's a danger," which he is. He almost crashed into Lewis and went on his team radio that was broadcast. Ha 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 ha! I almost crashed into Lewis, and no one responded, and the commentators were just like, okay. So great start for him there. He really knows how to, impress a crowd.
There's going to be
get
so
people
much
on
drama.
side. I know, but anyway, shall we crack on just before we in fact, do we want to mention what Angus thought about the liveries? Because we don't want to ignore his ideas. Yeah.
So Angus, this is your moment in the sun. Angus says top 3 liveries. Alpine, it's grown on him. Ugh. You should get that checked out. Red Bull, Honda on the rear wing is A-OK. I completely agree. I think we all agree with that. Mercedes prefer black to silver. Absolutely. I think most people I've spoken to say they prefer that. They're no longer the silver arrows, but who cares? Ferrari, the green ruins it. Absolutely. Williams,
this is the bottom 3, by the way.
Yes, this is the bottom 3. Ferrari, green ruins it. Yeah, I think we agree with that. Williams, too much going on. Yeah, I can see where he's coming from. I think you two agree with him more than I do.
Yeah.
And finally, Haas, on principle and on merit. So yes, please put in the comments what you think of the liveries, whether or not you disagree with us.
Shall we do some predicting?
Yes, we should.
Let's go around the room. Let's start with Angus's.
So we'll start with Angus's predictions. He thinks that the champion is going to be Lewis. He thinks that the Constructors is going to be Mercedes. They're going to win.
Okay.
Rookie of the Year, Tsunoda. Biggest surprise, Norris against Ricciardo. Biggest letdown, Alpine and Alonso. Ooh. No, not an Alonso fan there, Angus. Number of race winners, 6. And a bold prediction. So this is when the klaxon goes off. There isn't going to be a klaxon. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Bold prediction: Perez to outscore Max. That is a bold prediction. That is a very bold prediction, Angus. And
bold.
I'm sure some of those will age like milk, and I'm sure some of those age like fine wine. We'll have to find out. Liv, do you want to give us some of your predictions, whether or not you agree with Angus's?
No, absolutely. So, on those first 2, champion and constructors, I did also put Lewis and Mercedes. However, I would like to point out, you can put it on record. I was going to say guarantee. Don't say that, Liv. I think that it will be closer between first and second than it was last year. That's all I'm saying.
That's bold.
I am. But I don't think that Mercedes will, or Lewis, it will beat the gap that he had last year. I think it'll be closer. I think the Red Bull is looking good. And I think that the Mercedes, whether it's a lie or not, is looking a tiny bit sketchy. It will still be a race winner. Let's face it, Lewis will still win. But I'm predicting a closer fight for both championships. I'm saying it right here, right now. I know. So that's my prediction. So they come with an asterisk. It's Lewis and Mercedes, but with an asterisk. Rookie of the Year, got to say Tsunoda. Obviously, he's done really well today. F1 Fantasy agrees with us. He's the highest priced rookie. I would love to see Schumacher do it well as well, but both of those, they're the only 2 rookies, that I can acknowledge. So I think that Tsunoda will do better just because he's in a better car than Schumacher. Not bothered where Nikita finishes. The biggest surprise, I don't know if this is a surprise actually, but I think that Stroll will beat Vettel. I think that youth will beat wisdom in that team. Because I just feel like Vettel just can't catch a break, the poor boy. I would love, this is what I want. I want to see absolute Vettel redemption. I want to see him winning races, That's what I want. But realistically, I think Stroll is young, he's hungry, and he has proved to us, he proved to all of us, specifically us 4, that he actually can be very good. So I'm going to predict that. And let down, I do agree. I think that Alpine are going to be a bit meh this year. Alonso, I think he'll do better than he has in testing, but still not like fighting for the championship, like some people might say. I think that McLaren, this wasn't one of the things listed, but I think McLaren will win a race. And I think that my bold prediction that you all gasped at earlier is that AlphaTauri will beat Ferrari, and that is my prediction.
Blimey.
The end.
Okay.
Mic drop.
I think, okay, but it sounded like a broken record here, but the champion, I think it's probably going to be Lewis. I think the Constructors is going to be Mercedes. Rookie of the year. Okay, well, I'm going to be different then. I think I'm gonna go with Schumacher.
Nice.
I
would love that.
I don't necessarily think he's going to do particularly well, but I feel like he's going to really hold his own. A bit like how I was championing Russell. I think he's going to show off what he can do, and I think he's going to beat Mazepin. I think the biggest surprise, is going to be Aston Martin. I think, and when I say surprise, I think they're going to be closer to Red Bull than perhaps we thought. I think the biggest letdown of them all is going to be Ferrari. Just because I don't think Ferrari's made particular gains. I think Sainz is going to have a hard time getting the car to a position where they'd be truly proud of. So I think it's going to be a bit of a letdown yet again. Yeah. And I think the number of race winners, I think we're going to have 4 race winners.
Oh, I didn't do that. Sorry.
Would you like to do that?
Number of race winners. I would like there to be more. But I think last year, I would like, genuinely, like, in a dream season, I mean, I would say like 8, at least 8. However, I think last year we were super lucky with some of the variation we got to see. Oh, I absolutely loved it. I want to see it all the time. However, this season, at the moment, touch wood, looks more regular than whatever was going on last year.
Right.
So I'm going to go with like 5. I like Angus's 6, actually. I honestly like Angus's 6.
6 is a good number, but that's an optimistic number.
Okay, I'm going to go 5.
Yeah.
I've gone
5.
4, you've gone 5, Angus has gone 6, so Tom either has to be hilariously optimistic or gloriously pessimistic. And my bold prediction is going to be that Russell gets 10 points.
10?
Oh my gosh, I would literally cry.
I think, 10, that's a bold prediction. Russell gets 10 points.
Yeah. Okay, right, champion. Toyed with this one, but I think after long consideration it will be Lewis Hamilton, unfortunately. No disrespect. Okay. Constructors. Now, I mean, this isn't going to be my bold prediction, but I think Red Bull are going to win the Constructors. Because I think sort of looking at the gearbox issues that Mercedes have had, I don't think this is going to be sort of a huge reliability issue, but looking at that coupled with Bottas, who, unfortunately, dear lad, is not up to the same standard as Hamilton, Verstappen and Sergio Perez, he will be the Albon of this season, I believe, lagging behind what should be the top 4 cars. And I just think that Verstappen has really come out fighting. Perez is a vast improvement on Albon. The car's looking really punchy, so I think they'll nick it, but they will literally nick it by a couple of points. Rookie of the Year. I think that will be Schumacher, because I think similarly to Leclerc last year, he'll bring that Haas, or should I say Ferrari-powered Haas, kicking and screaming up the rankings to maybe a couple of points, but I can't see any more than, let's say, 2 or 3 at best, if circumstances are going in his favour and the wind's blowing in the right direction. He's a very talented driver, there's no doubt, and I think if Haas do have any success and don't finish last, it'll be because of him and him alone. Biggest surprise? Well, I see the biggest surprise being that Ocon will beat Alonso handsomely in the inter-team fight at Alpine. Put in a lot of hard yards, or should I say laps, with testing, and looking at the fact that Alonso's been away from the sport for so long, he's almost going to be playing catch-up, I think, to Ocon, who, if it weren't for a few reliability issues at Renault, he'd have done far better last season, and he's a young driver with a bit of steel and fire on his belly. So yeah, I think he will beat Alonso, and that will be the surprise, I guess. Looking at the sort of midfield battle, biggest letdown. I think Aston Martin full stop will be a big letdown. I think they've got the tools, but have they got the drivers to do the job? I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that Vettel will be a huge upgrade, if an upgrade at all, on Sergio Perez. A slight downgrade, maybe. And Stroll's a good enough driver. He's certainly improved. But is he better, or a lot better than last year and the last year's drivers that they had at their disposal, bearing in mind that Perez would pretty much finish every race in their points for them, bar one or two incidents where the car would pack up for then racing points. So yeah, I think they're going to be a letdown compared to last year. I don't foresee a huge battle between themselves and McLaren, but I'd love to be proved wrong. And number of winners. I'm going to go bold here. I'm going to go incredibly bold. Fully optimistic. Hat on today, friends. 7. 7.
Fair enough.
It's going to be 7. Somehow,
it's going to be a spicy season. I
want that.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
And bold prediction, as if my previous predictions have not been bold enough. I think that Williams will beat Haas.
Oh, that's good.
I know, I agree.
That's a bold. It's
which
good.
kind of goes against my presumption that Schumacher will score points. But then again,
what you've done there, you've set yourself up as a bet against and a bet for.
Exactly, I've got to win in some regard.
I've got another one. Yeah, I've actually got another one. Now you've said that, I'm going to not only bet that George is going to get points, but I think Nicholas Latifi's going to get a point.
Ooh, that'd be nice.
I'm going to get a point for each.
And
that's
please let us know your predictions down below. And of course, if you want to go against us directly, we do have a F1 Fantasy League where we have teams already waiting in time for the first race in 2 weeks' time. There'll be a link in the description where you can go to join that, take a look at our teams and construct something different, maybe a little bit bold, that perhaps puts us to shame with our conservative ways of thinking. So yes, please join our F1 Fantasy team.
Yeah, we'll have to do an update on how the league's going once it starts. But and so ends the first episode of a new series of F1 in Review. Thank you very much for listening all the way to the end of this episode. Whether you're a new listener, an old listener, or somebody who just occasionally dabbles, thank you nonetheless. We'll be returning shortly after the 28th of March, after we've seen the first Grand Prix in Bahrain unfold, and we can tell you, and you can tell us, whether testing was a true indicator of what was to come, or whether or not it was actually just a facade and an illusion. Here's hoping moving forwards, no disrespect to Sir Lewis Hamilton, but that we see a different winner at this race, and a different winner in the overall championship.
Yeah, Murray Walker will be looking down on this season, commentating from above.
Yes.
An icon, I think. He was a bit before my time. I mean, I was when he stopped commentating, I was only 4 years old. So I don't remember him, but he's definitely made an impact on the sport.
I think that his impact is really summarised in the sense that you just said it. We weren't watching when he was commentating, yet we still know him as an icon and
I know his voice,
and that exactly, and that shows what his legacy continues. Despite stopping, he's still an icon to young fans. So
the Attenborough of the Formula One world.
And devastating news, but fantastic to see everyone celebrating his fantastic career. So yeah,
absolutely.